in the street. Mostly, the adults were in the backyards looking after the youngest kids. If we were playing tennis, we tied a rope to the handlebars of 2 standing bicycles on either side of the road to make a net. If a car came, one of the kids from the classes below us at school had to run and put the bicycles down so the car could pass. Last year, it was me that had to put the bicycles down, and it was me that had to go home earlier in the evenings as well. But when I had pyjamas on, I was allowed to nip out again for a bit. So I'd slip through the gap in the hedge so the others wouldn't see me, and down to Hille's to get a good night's story at her place. Even though Hille was a bit too young to be my friend, and I was too big, because I can read myself, no problem. In Hille's house, they got coffee in the morning, plus toast and jam. Then coffee again in the evenings with cupcakes and biscuits. Her mum stayed at home all day, and if she'd known what we got up to on the common, she would have said something, definitely. I didn't know what she did during the winter, but in summer, she'd lie on the sunbed in the garden. It had big orange and white flowers on it, just sunbathing. She was brown by the time we got to May, and black by August. And every morning, she'd listen to Elvis while she made lunches and got everyone packed off good and early. But one morning, there was no music. Elvis was dead. He was only 42, and it was terrible. A tragedy, Hille's mum said, and she pulled me into a big hug. She whispered that Elvis had the same birthday as me, and that was how she could always remember it. And then she cried. She cried in the afternoon too, when we got home from school. And then Hille ran down to the back garden shed for her dad. He was always in there fixing something or other, but we knew very well he wouldn't do much, 'cause he just sat in there on an upturned bucket drinking beer. It was us that found the bottles and got money back on the empties. Hille's dad never said a thing. We got sweets on the money from them, down at the newspaper shop where the owner was missing 2 fingers. His sweets were the cheapest. They were sort of stale and hard and sat in your teeth, and Mum said it was because they were ancient. Like those chocolate-covered marshmallows she'd bought once, which had stood on display somewhere for years. She told us not to buy sweets there anymore, but even though it was yucky to think that the shop owner had touched all the sweets with the fingers he had left, we still went there. That day, when Elvis died, Hille's dad went up into the house to comfort her mum. But the next time she cried, he couldn't do that, 'cause he was dead as well. He'd hung himself in the shed. I wanted to ask if he'd stood on that upturned bucket to reach the loop. Carsten said they'd found him hanging from a noose. And also, how could you manage to kick it away yourself, and you hanging there? But we didn't talk about things like that. I was waiting for my mum to ask me if I missed Hille's dad, seeing as it was him that read bedtime stories to us. But she never did. Then they flitted. Hille and her mum and her little brother, who was called Peter. And that's when Lisa and her family moved in. No one was sure if they really knew about the shed. It was me that rang Lisa. She answered right away. She was really happy and said she'd love to come over, but she couldn't budge until tomorrow. I put the receiver down and looked over at my sister. She turned away from me and went out into the garden, and I followed her. Down behind the rabbit hutch, there was a load of wooden pins. They weren't sharp, but were quite long and had rubber foam at the end held on by tape. I couldn't remember what we'd used them for, but my sister lifted them and said she was going down to Carsten. When she came back for her tea, she told me the plan. I said I wasn't sure if I wanted in on it, but she said not to be a total dunce. All I had to do was go down to number 16